Let's start with the top story that we are tracking this morning, wherein a major crackdown on Pakistan over its failure to contain terror and not provide safe haven for terrorists. The United States has now announced that it is suspending $255 million in terms of military aid to Islamabad, according to a report that's come out. The United States has said that the fate of such assistance will now depend on Pakistan's response in fighting terrorism on its soil. The move comes just a day after President Donald Trump has accused Pakistan of giving nothing to the United States but lies and deceit. Trump, in his tweets on Monday morning, the first day of the year 2018, has slammed Pakistan for providing safe havens for terrorists despite having received $33 billion in terms of military aid over the last 15 years in Pakistan, assisting the United States in the war against terror. The report quotes a U.S. administration official as saying that the United States does not plan to spend the $255 million in the financial year 2016-17 in terms of foreign military financing for Pakistan at this time. Meanwhile, several U.S. lawmakers have supported Donald Trump's tough approach on Pakistan. Republican Congressman Mark WION has in fact said that he supports Donald Trump's decision to block aid to Pakistan. Now, earlier, the Pakistanis had in fact hit back at the United States, alleging that it got nothing but invectives and mistrust in return for supporting the United States war on terror. All right, now for more on this, we're joined in by our bureau chief from Islamabad, Taha Siddiqui. Taha, it's an interesting development that has come about. We have been hearing as to what Donald Trump has had to say in terms of aid that is given to Pakistan. But now the announcement that aid, $255 million, has now been suspended. How is this being viewed within Pakistan?
Well, following the tweet of President Trump yesterday, the Pakistani foreign minister already clarified late last night in a TV interview to a local channel, saying that Pakistan is not receiving any aid. It is actually a reimbursement of expenditure that the Pakistani military has been doing. And this is what the Pakistan military spokesperson also said to local media here in Pakistan, that the Trump administration should realize that Pakistan was fighting its war on terror since 9/11, and the expenditure it has incurred due to fighting this war is what was being reimbursed by the United States, and it was not aid. Moreover, today there is a meeting of there's a national security meeting that has been called by the Pakistani Prime Minister, where all heads of armed forces and federal cabinet ministers will be present to discuss a future course of action with regards to what to do next when it comes to the Pakistan-US relations. So this meeting is quite important in this context for today.
Right. And also the fact that Pakistan has in fact announced that, organizations of Hafiz Saeed will no longer be able to collect donations. Is this something that's actually being done to try and appease the Americans? Is this a sort of, a reaction on these tough tweets that have been put out by Donald Trump?
Well, we do know that, the U.S. or the Trump administration in recent past, when Hafiz Saeed was let go by the Lahore High Court, after that they had asked Pakistan to rearrest him and prosecute him, but Pakistan had cited the courts and saying that the courts have allowed him to go and they cannot do much about it, even though the way they carried out the case, the government carried out the case, the prosecution was weak, and many feel that it was purposely weak. It wasn't done. It was more cosmetic. So now this new sort of directive of banning them from collecting charity, and also talks about overtaking their assets in Pakistan. All of this, we've heard this on paper, but there hasn't been any progress or any development on it on ground. As far as I know right now, Falai Insaniyat Foundation, which is the front charity organization for Jamaat al-Dawa or Lashkar-e-Taiba, is still operating in Pakistan, is still having its ambulance services, its humanitarian services operational, and there has not been any actual clampdown on ground, except for what we've read on paper from the Pakistani government.
Right, Taha, and also, just to dip back on what in fact was said by Khwaja Asif immediately after US President Donald Trump announced his review of South Asia policy in August. He said that Pakistan will not be made into a scapegoat to take the blame for the failures of American policy in Afghanistan. How is this likely to now play out within Pakistan, considering that there is a bit of a political vacuum in the country? Do you think the present establishment under Abbasi will be more pliable to take on the terrorists and try rein them in, or will these fringe elements will actually be given more active support?
Well, as far as these groups are concerned, the policy to support or sponsor them or not crack down against them comes from the military establishment rather than the Pakistani civilian authorities. So given that, we would expect a change in the military's outlook, in the military's stance on when it comes to these militant groups, which we haven't seen, and the military continues to say that it has done enough for the United States or for foreign powers, and it will not do any more.
Right.
So it seems like they want to send that message of strength from Pakistan, saying that we've done enough, but at the same time, Pakistan cannot afford to lose the relationship it has with the United States,
right,
because of the military dependency on the United States, not just in monetary terms but in technical terms, because most of the military equipment and machinery that Pakistani army uses has been imported from the United States, and there is a lot of dependency on after-sale services that Pakistan cannot on its own manage and maintain its arsenal. So in that sense, the Pakistan army needs to revisit its policy. And we saw, when you mentioned Khwaja Asif did say that, particularly with regards to Trump. But he also said in a briefing that I was present in before leaving for the United States, that Pakistan has a baggage of these groups, which include Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed. So definitely there is a realization within some quarters of Pakistani leadership, but that needs to be seen that if it's across the board, everybody's on the same page, which we don't see as yet.
Right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Taha Siddiqui, for joining us from Islamabad and getting us the perspective as to how this entire incident is being perceived in Pakistan.